I've had this thought in my head lately. I hate my life. Not the people in it, not the family, not the people I care about, not the people who love me. Just the weight of everything sometimes. The routine, the pressure, the constant feeling of carrying something heavy mentally. And I think a lot of more people feel this way than they like to admit.
Welcome to the bench session, where we unload the weight, one session at a time. I'm Juan, and this is a space for real, honest, and open conversations. The kind we usually only have with ourselves. No filters, no hiding. Just me, a mic, and a bench. Let's get into it.
Welcome back, everybody. I debated on actually recording this episode or not. This is kind of a little hard to talk about, and I think a lot of people feel this way. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. It's no biggie. But I think this one's going to be a little bit personal. I mean, I've done some personal ones too, but I think this one will probably hit home to a lot of people. Because there's a big difference between hating your life and hating the people in it. And a lot of us tend to get those two things confused. You know, there's a weird part of about being an adult sometimes, you know. We can have great people around us, people that love us, a roof over our head. We have our goals, responsibilities, and things that, you know, we should technically be grateful for, and yet we still find ourselves a little bit unhappy. And then we feel guilty. We feel guilty for being unhappy. Because now you're sitting there thinking, why do I feel like this? I should be happy. I think a lot of people beat themselves up for struggling mentally because they think gratitude is supposed to cancel out the pain. But it doesn't work that way, does it? I mean, you can appreciate people and still feel exhausted by life itself. You know, life gets heavy quietly. Nobody really prepares you for how repetitive adulthood can be. You know, we wake up, go to work, we pay our bills, we take care of our responsibilities, we deal with stress, we sleep, and repeat, right? And it's not always some huge tragedy that breaks people. And don't get me wrong, this little routine right there, it's not everybody either. Some people like to, or find time to travel or do all these kinds of cool stuff that, you know, gives their life a little bit of meaning, or they, you know, a little bit of adventure, of excitement, things like that. And, you know, sometimes it's just years of pressure stacking quietly that they get heavy over time. And that's the dangerous part, because from the outside, you still look functional. You know, you're still showing up, you're still working, you're still talking, you're joking around, but internally you're tired in a way sleep can't fix. You know, you have a permanent, you know, resting bitch face. You have a permanent angry look, or people can call you cranky all the time, or you just have that aura about you that just pushes people away. And you know what? Sometimes we can't control it. Sometimes we don't even know it's happening until somebody calls it out. And then, you know, the little light switch flips. You know, sometimes we're just missing older versions of ourselves. You know, I think that's one of the hardest feelings, is realizing you miss a version of yourself that doesn't exist anymore. We all crave for the good old days when we were younger, when we had less technology, when we did these things, when we laughed more, when we worried less, we had a lot more energy. You know, we looked forward to things. And somewhere along the way, life became more about surviving than actually living. And that realization hits a little hard for most of us. I mean, that was one of the things that, you know, when we were kids, we just couldn't wait to grow up, couldn't wait to be adults, couldn't wait to do adult things because we thought they were cool. And now we're adult, and we would wish, and if we had the opportunity, we would flip a switch and go back to our younger selves. We had less pressures, less things to worry about. We didn't, you know, have to worry about life so much. We were just kids. We were just enjoying ourselves. And that's the crazy part. that, we change along the way, and we stop enjoying the moments. We stop enjoying ourselves. We, look for other things to fill in the void that we have, and we just don't understand what's going on. And then suddenly we start pulling away from people. And when people feel like this, they usually, we will isolate, not because we hate people. Well, we may hate some people, but that we don't hate people in general, but because we just don't have the energy, we stop texting people back, you stop going out, you stop talking about what's bothering you, because, half the people that you tell what's bothering you, they don't care, and the other half are happy that you're going through it. At least that's the saying that I used to grow up with, which is probably why I don't talk a lot about myself. But sometimes just even talking about what's bothering you and explaining that is what feels exhausting. It's just so much energy to try to just explain what you're going through, and then you can't even find the words sometimes. And then that leads to arguments or misunderstandings, and suddenly you're feeling worse and you're feeling shittier than what you did before because what you said didn't come out right, and now the other person's hurt, and it's just a constant battle. And they say that love fixes everything, but love doesn't automatically fix internal struggles. And this is something that I think people misunderstand. Love matters. Good people matter. Relationships matter. But even if you have all that, you can still struggle internally. And I think that confuses people because, we assume that if I'm surrounded by love, why do I still feel off? Because sometimes the issue isn't the people around you. Sometimes it's just pressure, or sometimes it's burnout. Sometimes it's just losing yourself somewhere along the way. And the pressure to pretend you're fine is exhausting. And I think a lot of people become really good at pretending. I don't want to say especially men, but majority of the time will be a man that is really good at pretending that they're fine. I mean, you learn how to function while mentally drained. You still joke around. You still go to the gym. You still go to work. You still handle your responsibilities. You're paying your bills. Nobody realizes how tired you actually are mentally. Because somewhere along the way, a lot of us learn that struggling quietly is what strength looks like. It could be that we learned that from a parent, from a family member, from movies, from something. But somewhere along the way, that got ingrained into our brains. Sometimes we just, we want peace. And I talked about this before. We seek your peace. Sometimes we just want peace. We don't want to escape anybody or escape things. We just want peace. Feeling overwhelmed doesn't always mean you want to escape your life. Sometimes, like I said, you just want some peace. You just want your brain to slow down. You want to stop carrying pressure for just a little while. You want to feel calm again. That's different. And I think that's what a lot of people are actually searching for. I know throughout the days, at least for the past few weeks, I feel like my heart is going to beat out of my chest randomly throughout the day. And it's anxiety. And, I talked to my wife about this, and it's just some of the things that happen. It's just crazy to me, mainly because it's just, I'm at work and, the school calls or something like that, my daughter's school calls, and I'm over here freaking out as to what happened now. Why are they calling me? That means they didn't get a hold of my wife, or it's something more drastic that they went to me directly, or, my son is calling and needs money for this, or had an accident in his car or something. And it's just like random moments of anxiety, and it sucks. It really does. And it's not a shot at my family or anything like that. It's just life. Life happens, and it can be overwhelming. It can be a lot to deal with. But there's stuff that we can't control. And we just have to learn to navigate our way through these things. And there's just so much stuff that I can't, I can sit here and list all these kinds of things. And then this episode just becomes into a woe is me kind of thing. And really, That's not really what this is, because I mean, I think everybody can sit here for 20 minutes and just go, woe is me, and list out all their woes. And somebody listening could be like, what the fuck are you crying about? You should be happy. You're blessed with this, you're blessed with that. And it's all kinds of things. And, you know, it goes to the grass is greener on the other side. You know, sometimes our tragedies are someone's blessings, right? Some people would love to have to worry about some of the things you're worrying about because they don't have those things. They don't have a home, a house that they own, or a nice car or motorcycle or boat or things like that. Not that I have a boat or anything, but just, you know, listing examples. And yeah, I mean, if I look at my life externally through the eyes of somebody else, I can definitely see that I could be bitching about things that I shouldn't be bitching about. I should be grateful to have some of these problems. And part of me is, part of me is grateful to have some of these problems, but you know, the other part is like, fuck, I have these problems, and you know, it's a lot. And I know a lot of us have to go through that. You know, if you want to have your bench takeaway here, I don't think most people truly hate their lives. I just think they hate who they become, how exhausted they feel, how disconnected they feel, and how heavy life has started to feel. And there's a difference. Maybe the first step isn't fixing your whole life overnight. Maybe just being honest enough to admit, I'm not okay right now, and starting there. I'm at this stage. I hate my circumstances. I don't hate the people around me. I love the people around me, but I am just exhausted sometimes. Sometimes just life feels heavy. I don't think I feel disconnected, but I definitely don't feel myself. And I just seek peace. And I think I found it. I think I found a place where I can be at peace. And I will talk about that in future episodes once all the cards are in play and everything's said and done. But find your peace. If you want to take the main thing away from this, is find your peace, whatever that may be. Thanks for sitting down with me for another episode. If this episode connected with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it too, because a lot of people are carrying things silently right now. And maybe hearing that they're not alone helps them more than we realize. And remember, you don't have to carry everything alone. That's what this bench is for. I'll see you next session. Stay real. Stay grounded.